Friends, family, fans, it's episode 86 of Back Nine Bets. Something's got to give. Spelt something's got to give. Playing on words. We're playing on Riviera Golf Course this week. We are having a good week. It's back-to-back weeks now we've profited despite not hitting a winner. That's usually how you want your weeks to go. The previous week we doubled our money. And last week we cashed our $25 off 100, which is delightful to see. So that's good. We're moving on to Riv now. We've got some fun card. We've got two outrights. I'll kind of give you guys, if you're not in the mood to go with my guy, I'll give you a few options that I'm going to be looking at if I didn't go with my boys, the two Scots, not from Scotland, but from the Scottish descent of names. But before we get there, we have to chat about our guys from last week. Last week, we had Sahith the Gala, T5 plus 600. Sam Burns, T10 plus 220. Kaching. Adam Scott, T10 plus 450. Kaching. Tom Hoagie, plus 275 for a top 20. Kaching. And Todd Brendan, T40 plus 125. Kaching. We had a great little week over there at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. We had Sam Burns and Sahith the Gala both finish inside the top 5. We almost had those winners. Sahith just looked like he was deflated. Sam Burns just never had enough holes. We just never super close, not close enough. No cigar for us, though. That's the problem with this outright betting situation. But that's okay. We've reduced the amount we're trying to get back from these outrights and cashing in big time on the placements, on the matchups, and doing the things that we do best, making sure we get our money back, baby, because that's what Back Nine Bets is about. Making money the smart way. Hell yes. And speaking of smart ways, use code NEW for 30% off at rotoballer.com. You get my showdown model. You get Spencer's pre-tournament model. You get his in-tournament model. You get all the premium articles. You get the optimizer. You get the Discord chat. You get everything for a friendly price of $17.40 if you use code NEW, N-E-W, for 30% off. Let's get into it. We've got the Riviera goddamn golf course to dissect. We've got the Genesis Invitational to watch. We've got Tiger's event, and I missed, apologies, friends, I missed the research show because it was the Super Bowl. I could have done it earlier. I was too busy cooking ribs. The priorities are bad on Back Nine Bets. We've got to figure our stuff out. I will be better, but I hope you guys enjoyed this show. We'll get a bit of research in early, kind of figure our stuff out as we go. So just a general understanding of the golf course right now over the last 5 years. If you take a quick peek over here in the distance column or the distance row, it's a 6% increase over tour average. Huge, huge, huge. Donald Trump, huge amount of increase in distance around you. So you really want to make sure your guys either have got elite accuracy to hit these narrow fairways, or you want guys that can nuke it off the tee. Why? Because the driving accuracy at this golf course is 51% on average, whereas tour average is 59. So it's 8% less fairways hit. Why? Because the fairway width is about 6 yards narrower than tour average. Boom. Answers, questions, we've got them all for you here. Approach play is going to come predominantly from 150 to 200. About 42% of shots are going to be coming from that range. In fact, the magic number for the last 5 years has been 47.9%. Almost half the shots from 150 to 200. If you've watched the podcast already, you know that is the case. So you want guys that can hit those clubs. Well, we'll figure out who they are, show you them up. Around the green, because the green regulation rates are 58% at this golf course compared to 66% on tour average, you want around the green play to play a little more importance here. Also, Kikuyu grass, grew up on that bad boy down in South Africa. That shit's nasty. It's sticky. Doesn't have to be thick or long to grab your golf club. Kikuyu grass can get you. It can get you. And then putting on POA at this venue seems to be important over the last little duration of time. But if you take a look at one of the tweets I sent out earlier this week, I was taking a look at the leaderboard from a strokes gain perspective, and Scotty Scheffler seems like he's going to suit this course to a T based off that year. There's only 2 people inside the top 11 from last year's leaderboard that cracked the top 10 in putting. Everyone in there, the majority of them were tee to green beasts, and then the putting kind of dealt with its own thing in that department there. So just keep that in mind. Let's get into the model. I have this filtered on tee time right now. We'll figure this out here shortly. But I want to just mention that we're going to potentially get a bit of an early wave advantage on Thursday. Looks like it's going to be breathless, calm weather early on. And then we're going to see some, not significant winds, but there's going to be an uptick to about 12 miles an hour winds in the afternoon. So these guys going off early, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, are going to be in the much more pristine, calmer conditions. Look for them to play good golf. The one person I do want to mention, and we're going to just go right off the bat here, is Cameron Young. Cameron Young goes off at 8:44. He's one of the first big names that really kind of gets off early. Never want to get off early unless you're playing on golf. That's just a little fun fact there about life, but that's okay. You know that already. We're going to go to Cameron Young's round by round scoring over here and take a quick peek at what he gets up to. Now, if you take a look at what Cameron Young has done over the last year, his round 1 strokes gained average is 13th in this field. It's one of the best first round strokes gained situations here out of the guys going off early. No one really above him outside of Benny On. Benny On, we might have to look at him a little bit in round 1. But no one really outside of him or Sung Jae, who's not really playing the best golf right now, has better strokes gained. And then we got Victor, but the odds aren't going to be the same for him. So Cam Young, and we're going to actually go to Benny On. I'm actually going to look it up right now because I didn't pay attention, but I have got a Cam Young first round leader ticket for 40-1. So that's our first bet. Cam Young, 40-1, first round leader. I'm looking up Benny On's number right now because that's going to be another play for certain. 50-1, pretty much everywhere you can go. So we've got Cam Young and Benny On rocking and rolling hard at the paint in round 1 for those early tee times when the wind is a little subdued. And that's the world we want to live in this week. I don't know where my mouse is. Let's figure it out, Lindeque. All righty. So that's my little early edge wedge there situation for you. Early weather edge situation. Let's filter on the upside rank here. Upside rank includes a bit more recent form, a bit more 75th percentile strokes gained versus the steadier, more Cadillac version of the safety rankings, which takes averages, it takes a longer duration, less recent form, that kind of stuff. We've got Maserati versus Cadillac in those 2 columns, if that's a way to describe those 2 to you. Let's figure it out. So right off the bat, Scotty Scheffler, hello, ranked number 1 in the field. And let's take a quick peek here. We're going to unhide a column just to see what his power ranking actually is. Take a look here. So Justin Thomas is 0.8 strokes gained behind Scotty Scheffler when it comes to power ranking in the model. If you want to go 8 strokes gained away from JT, you're going to have to find yourself Taylor Montgomery in the model, Sam Burns, Bo Hassler. That's kind of the drop-off in skill level that we're going to expect from Scotty to JT, who's second in the model. Just a little analysis there and some subjectivity, some relativity, whatever you want to call it, to compare the ranking, because a 1 and a 2 isn't quite giving you the same understanding of how good Scotty Scheffler is. What we particularly like about Scotty Scheffler. Now, if you look at this box at the top here, it's not looking that good. If you bet to win $100 on Scotty Scheffler every single tournament since the last 12 months, you would lose $190 total dollars, even though he's won twice in the last little while or the last 12 months. So his odds have been horrifically short. They haven't really helped you that much. But if you bet him top 5, if you bet him top 10, if you bet him top 20, you will have made yourself a fortune over the last 12 months. We're going to be doing that along with betting him to win this tournament. So we're going to bet him outright. We're going to bet him top 5 at plus 145. His top 5 market has been pretty profitable. It returned a 49% clip in the last 12 months, and Scotty Scheffler finishes inside the top 5 55% of the time. At plus 145, it's telling us that's a 41% implied probability. So that's a 14% edge based off his last 12 months. This field is smaller. Yes, it is a designated field. Yes, it's going to be a bit more competitive. But Scotty Scheffler is so goddamn good at golf. He's going to be just fine. So we can expect him to dominate. And the reason why I really like him, we got him at 7.5 to 1 to win the tournament. You can find a boost on DraftKings to get him to like 9.5 to 1 now. I think he's at 650 there. So I jumped in on a profit boost early personally, but we will record it as 7.5 to 1 as our bet over there at Bet365, where the other half of my stake is. We have ourselves a situation with Scotty Scheffler. He's arriving at this golf course for the first time in 3 years. And for the first time in 3 years, I'm going to just hide the model here for 2 seconds. I need to speak to you about stuff that isn't even statistically relevant. For the first time in 3 years, Scotty Scheffler will be arriving at Riviera, the Riviera Country Club, a golf course that rewards tee to green beasts. For the first time, he will not have won the Waste Management Phoenix Open in the last 1,000 days. He finished 4th last week or 3rd last week. Thank God. Otherwise, his odds would have been nuked. Who the hell knows? But he didn't win. This week, he comes in here under the radar. We got Tiger Woods. We've got Max Homa. We've got Rory McIlroy. We've got all these names. Nick Taylor, past winner last week, showing up to this golf course. Scotty Scheffler is the world number 1. He's going to fly under the radar so nicely this week. That's how he is. If you took a look at the thumbnail, it's Scotty in a undercover sniper outfit, the get up. I think it's an interesting situation. And my main man, Brian over here, agrees. Didn't think of that angle. And I understand, that's the thing. Like, I've been in this market. I've been doing this golf stuff for a while now. It's tough. It's tough to figure out who's going to win this tournament. Sometimes, a lot of the time, the stuff that results in these guys winning isn't necessarily even statistically relevant. The fact that he just hasn't maybe won the tournament before he tees up here could make a massive difference to him. Now, the one thing I did notice about Scotty Scheffler is his good shot rate out of the rough is pretty darn shoddy. It's like almost below average with a wedge and just above average when it comes to longer irons. So we'll dive back in the model here. I want to show you guys this nonsense. But if you take a look at all Scotty's numbers, you know everything. There's pink boxes everywhere, Scott Holdridge. We've got pink boxes abound. If you take a look at his good shot rates, though, they aren't necessarily that great. Out of the rough, from the fairway, like Scotty plays safe golf. And that, to me, is part of the reason why he doesn't really thrive that well at these courses where he has to make tons and tons of birdies, get himself into minus 20 under par. Despite knocking it close, it's not like super close. He's not knocking him a dead stiff all the time. He plays the safe game, always hitting to the safe fat side of the green, the best area to avoid a bogey. His bogey avoidance rate is through the roof. So you got that from Scotty. But at a golf course where scores might find themselves in the minus 13s, the minus 12s, minus 11s, maybe minus 16, Scotty Scheffler's good shot rate isn't going to be that much of an issue here. The strokes gained, the poor shot avoidance, green regulations, those kind of metrics are what we're looking for from Scotty Scheffler. So that's the statistical side of him. He's going to be driving this golf ball like a beast. He's going to be driving it like a Maserati. He's going to be hitting his irons like the Iron Throne King. We just did a Game of Thrones Hacking at Hollywood with PGA Tout yesterday, and I wanted to mention that Scotty Scheffler is the current king of the Iron Throne. Nobody hits his irons better than Scotty Scheffler, even Colin Morikawa, who was the Iron Throne King. He's been dethroned. Scotty Scheffler is now him of the Westeros world. So that's what Scotty Scheffler's business is. He's 11.5 on BK. Take a look at his dollar per DFS point. It's rather spendy. He's really expensive, and it's difficult to find 5 guys to put in Scotty Scheffler's lineups to win those things. Whereas a Ludwig, $9,200, a Jay Day, also a little spendy, but we'll get to him here in a little bit. Some interesting names. But that's my Scotty Scheffler take. I know it's a square play. We got him at 7.5 to 1. Off we go to the races. That's the game plan here. Scotty Scheffler. Something's got to give. Something's got to give, folks. And it's going to be Scotty. Second in the model, Justin Thomas. He has been playing phenomenally the last little while. We get him at a plus 150 top 10. His overall last 12 months aren't going to be returning you any dollars. He's been playing like shit. Let's be honest here. But if you take a look at what JT's been up to, over the last 12 months, he's got his top 10 rate into the 24% range. Plus 150 is 40% implied probability. However, if you take a look at what he's got up to at this golf course, he's got a 20th, a 6th, and a 2nd over the last 5 years. 2 miscuts in between there, whatever. But most importantly, he finished 3rd at the Hero. He finished 3rd at the Amex, 6th at Pebble, and then kind of cost us a few bucks last week, batting for a top 10, and he finished 12th. So Justin Thomas is flirting. He's basically finished top 12 in the last 4 starts, and those aren't even including the starts he had in South Africa or that jazz. So JT's been balling out. In fact, he's got the best strokes gain total entering the week over the last 24 rounds. So Justin Thomas is playing some phenomenal golf. He's been doing it mostly with the around the green play, which once again at this golf course, remember we saw a lot of around the green intensity here. We want that. The putter seems to be middle of the pack. There's 70 guys in the field. 28th ain't shoddy. Ain't that bad. His approach plays also come a lot better. So he's tending to round into some form here, and we don't mind old JT at a golf course that he's played well at in the past. We don't mind him whatsoever at plus 150 to finish inside the top 10 for what would be the 4th time in 5 starts, I believe, if he does that, with the 5th time being a T12. So we like that a lot at plus 150 at a golf course he's played at very nicely in the past. Xander Schauffele, there's a lot to like about him. Over the last 12 months, no market of his has been profitable. We'll get back to these guys here shortly. In fact, we're going to run down the bets, and then we're going to do at the end of the show, we're going to filter on some of these rate of returns, all these dollars, and see if there's guys that you're kind of hitching your wagon onto in certain markets that haven't necessarily been the most profitable markets for you. Or there's guys that you might not have recognized that well who are really dominating top 20s, even though it doesn't appear that way on the surface. So we'll figure out some fun stuff at the end of the show here. Let's get into our next bet. It's going to be Rory McIlroy at 8-1. Oh, not 8-1. 8th in the model. And he's going to be going back to Riv, where he's played well, where he's done his thing. And at minus 105 for a top 10, we're going to take Rory McIlroy. He has a 4th, a 5th, and a 10th, a 29th, and a miscut. His Pebble Beach performance was bizarrely bad. Very, very poor. However, every single one of his rounds, for the most part, sits inside the top 10 in strokes gained average. There's a lot to like from Rory. The power putting for him has been a bit of an issue lately, but we saw him just rolling the rock like crazy at Pebble, and he's played well here in the past. The driver, in particular, is going to be what separates him here. He's got the most distance in the field, I believe. Yeah, number 1 in distance. He's the guy. If he can't do it, no one can. And his strokes gained off the tee on golf courses longer than 7,200 yards is 7th in the field. So he's doing that. He plays medium golf courses quite nicely. He's been ball striking it like crazy, even though his approach play been a little shoddy over the last 24 rounds. But we'll see what Rory can get up to at Riv, where I think he's played fantastic golf. And the beautiful thing about Rory is he actually finishes inside the top 10 since his last 16 starts, 63% of the time. But he finished inside the top 10 63% of the time. He's done that at Riv 3 out of the last 5 times. So that's 60% there. So we're getting a little bit of a double 60% overlap. The minus 105 implied probability is 51% for a top 10. So we're going to take that and we're going to rock and roll. We got all dunked on over here. Favorite song at the moment? AJR, just all of them. I'll come back to you on which one exactly. But I think it's the one that says, I'm not famous, something like that. But I don't know. Complete tangent there. Appreciate that. Favorite song at the moment? AJR or Cigarettes on Patios. That's one of my favorite songs too. Love that song. I don't know who sings it, but I think the song's name's Patios. It's a very cool beaty song. You can drive around with your window down, sipping on some champagne or something. If you're allowed to do that, wherever you live. I don't know, giving you some really, really bad advice there. Let's move on away from Rory, who's a top 10 beast at a 63% clip at minus 105. We're not going to go to Colin. We're not going to go to Victor. I really wanted to go to Colin at minus 150 for a top 20, which he does at about 45% of the time, though. But none of Colin's markets are returning any profit outside of his win when he won down at the Zozo. So that's going to return you $9 over the last 12 months. That's what you're going to get from Colin. We'll get back to him here shortly. I do like him a lot this week. But Adam Scott cashed us a top 10 last week. We also betting Adam Scott plus 220 for a top 10 this week. Now, the beautiful thing about what we've set up here on this side of the model is Adam Scott's top 10 rate is 33%. Adam Scott's top 20 rate is 39%. There's only a 6% difference between his top 20 and top 10 rate. If you take a look at his top 20 and his top 10 numbers, he's making a bit slightly more dollars in the T10 market, $3 more. If you take a look at his rate return, 71% rate of return for top 10 versus 33% for his top 20s. So that's the beauty of this situation, is you don't have to invest that much to get that return. And when he's finishing inside the top 20, it's usually a top 10 finish. So we saw that last week again. We got another top 10 finish from Adam Scott. And I think we had him at plus 450 last week. It was a beautiful number. This week, we don't quite get that number. We're still getting him at plus 220, smaller field, going to a course that he's played well at in the past. In fact, Adam Scott, in his last few starts on the PGA Tour, has had a 5th all the way back at the Bermuda, an 8th at the Phoenix last week, and then a 20th at Pebble. And that was only 3 rounds. He was making a move up the leaderboard for that backdoor top 10 like he did for us last Sunday. But at Riviera, in his last 5 starts, Adam Scott has a 4th, a 1st, and a 2nd. He's won this tournament. He's finished 4th. He's finished 7th. And he's had a 65th and a 38th as well. So not the worst. He plays some good golf around Riv. Why? Because around the green, even though he struggles a bit around the green typically, 65th over the last 24 rounds, you get Adam Scott, who's ridiculously good out of the bunkers. He's 5th in the field in proximity out of the sand around the greens. That's delightful to see. And on POA surfaces, he putts very well. He actually gets the 18th biggest jump in his putting performance from baseline to POA. And his putting baseline is actually 20th. So he's like seeing a massive jump in that department. He's 5th in 5 to 15 feet on POA, which is very important around here. Those little shorties on POA can get testy. He's typically very good in that department too. So we love Adam Scott, and we love him so freaking much, despite the fact he doesn't have a top 5 finish, which is a little bit concerning. We went and bet him at 40-1 when it happened. So I popped that in the Discord. I popped Scott in the Discord on Monday morning when those numbers were out there. I felt like the 40 was a little disrespectful for somebody that's this good of a golfer, playing this good of golf, entering the week, going to a golf course that he's played fantastically at. 3 of his last 5 starts have been 7th, 4th, and 1st. So we've got 2 Masters winners as our outrights. And the comp courses that we have at this golf course is Augusta Country Club, Augusta Golf Club. We got Kapalua. I think that's mainly got to do with the wide bombing it off the fairway situation, Memorial Park Golf Course, and then Olympia Fields. Those are our 4 comps that we have, but mainly Augusta, the one that you want to kind of take a peek at the hardest if you're looking for comps. Adam Scott, all-time at Augusta. Where's he at here? He shouldn't be too far down the board, even though he hasn't been playing that well. Oh, wow. All the way down here. But if you take a look at what old Scotty's been up to, he hasn't played that well around there, but he's playing good golf now. And that's what matters. We know he's won there. We know he's a winner at Augusta. And we know how well he plays around this golf course. His course history here it's scintillating. It's the 12th best course history in this field. So 40-1, Adam Scott. We like him for a top 10 as well at plus 220. Let's rock and roll. Next up on the betting card for us, we're going to skip right over Tony Finau, who, if you bet Tony Finau to finish top 20 every single tournament to win $100, you, over the last 12 months, would have lost $1,131. So congratulations to you if you did not bet Tony Finau. And I'm assuming you're probably watching this video from some second job if you have been betting Tony Finau to kind of make up your losses, because this guy has cost you tons and tons of money. Someone that hasn't, someone that cashed us a top 5 last week, someone who is a boom or bust candidate, who we're kind of trying to take advantage of in that department, is Sahith Theegala. I feel like he's moving in the right direction again. I feel like he's kind of getting his stuff together. We like him for a top 5 at plus 500. We're not going to be betting that much. We're just going to sprinkle a little bit. We're not even trying to do it to win a full unit. We're going to just do it to win half a unit. Just a tenth of a unit to win half a unit is what we're going to do for Sahith. I want to be part of his upside. I don't know how well he's going to play right after a close call like he had last week. We really would have liked to have seen him get across the line. He didn't. But we like him a lot in that range. He finishes inside the top 5 8% of the time in his last 25 starts. So he has that opportunity. And, the plus 500 is a 17% implied probably, which is not a very good edge if you ask me. But he's playing good golf. He's finished well here in the past. I think he's had a 6th place in 2023. And if you take a look at his last 6 starts, he's got a 5th and a 2nd. So in the last 6 starts, he's rocking a top 5 33% of the time, if you want to look at it that way. So we like Sahith. We like him at that number. We don't really like the number that much, but we want to kind of just dive in on Sahith. What's up, Crypto Don Juan? How the hell are we doing, brother? Thanks for showing up. And let's have ourselves a night, man. Hope you're doing well. We've got ourselves a little man called Sam Burns over here for our next bet. And old Sammy Burns, well, what does he do the best? It's top 20s, friends. He, over the last 22 starts from 2023, is returning you 5% on your investment if you bet Sam Burns to finish inside the top 20. And that doesn't include the Sam Burns that we are currently dealing with right now. We had Sam Burns to win last week. Barely got into the 3rd place spot, but our one and dones were looking good. I don't think too many people had Nick Taylor. If you had Sam Burns, you pretty much made ground up on the field and kept pace with those that had him as well. Sam Burns at minus 138 is a 58% implied probability, which Sam Burns, for his top 20 rate, is 50% over the last 22 starts. The thing with Sam, though, is he finishes in the top 20 enough at odds good enough to return that 5% or $90 over the last 12 months. You take a look what Sam's got up to here. He's missed the last 2 cuts. Yikes. But he's also finished 3rd. So he has got some good course issues. Also got a 23rd the year before that in 2020 and 2021. So we'll see what he can get up to. And the beautiful thing about Sam Burns right now is the fact that we're not going to say the 16th at the Hero was very good, because I think there were like only 16 guys maybe. But once he got to the Amex, he finished 6th. Once he got to Pebble, he finished 10th. Once he got to the Phoenix Open, the Waste Management Phoenix Open, he finished 3rd. So we've got ourselves 3 consecutive top 10s from old Sammy Burns. And when he makes it to the weekend, he tends to get rocking and a rolling. So we'll see what he can get up to. Maybe we catch him at a rogue number mid-tournament. We dive in for a top 10 as well. But at minus 138, we really like that number. He's a really good top 20 candidate right now. He's playing good golf. In fact, over the last 24 rounds, Sam Burns is the 8th best golfer in recent form. So he's been doing it well. And the thing is, his approach play has been a bit off this week, not nearly as important also as the past. He's around the green play, also a little sketchy, but he's been putting and driving the golf ball phenomenally. So we'll see what Sam can get up to. We like him for a top 20 here. We can see what he can do at minus 138. That's his typical go-to green light special in that betting market. So we'll see what Sam Burns can do. I was iffy about Tom Hoge. Tom Hoge at plus 210 for a top 20 is the only market he's profitable in, and quite. 16% rate of return. Excuse me. I'm choking up on Tom Hoge's stats here. If you bet to win $100 on every tournament Tom Hoge played, you would have won $151 over the last 12 months betting him top 20. Top 20 rate is 26%, which isn't the best, but at plus 210, that's implied 32%. So it's pretty close. And remember, this is not a full field. We've only got 70 guys starting. The cut is basically non-existent. That's what's cooking over here. So if you take a look at what Tom Hoagie's got up to, the last time he played Riv, he finished 14th. And his last 3 starts since the Amex have been, last 4 starts since the Amex have been 17th, 56th, 6th, and 17th. So that's 3 top 20s in the last 4 starts. I like that a lot. I like it a lot. The approach play has been very freaking good. The last 24 rounds, he's the 3rd best golfer in the field on approach. It's been fun to watch. He's also been putting the 16th best in the last 24 rounds too. So we get that from Tom Hoagie at plus 210 in a smaller field, all that jazz. He's ridiculously good across the board. There's no real range he's exceptionally good from outside of maybe his best strokes gained, good shots gained is actually 200 and out, which there'll be a few of, but he's 7th in the field from 150 to 200 as well. So there's a lot going on there for Tom Hoagie. His putting on POA is also better, 24th and 18th from 5 to 15 feet and in general, whereas your typical Tom Hoagie's gaining only, he's 45th in the field in putting. So there's a lot to like. He gets the 9th biggest jump in POA putting progressions there. So we'll see what he can get up to. I really like Tom Hoagie this week. Also gets that early tee time on Thursday morning. Then we're going to do like a bit of a weird situation here. Wyndham Clark is a fascinating case study. We either want to bet him top 5 or top 40. I know that's a weird thing to say, but Wyndham Clark finishes inside the top 40 85% of the time, and he finishes inside the top 5 15% of the time. Which is interesting because when you take a look at his top 20 rate, it's 35% of the time. So that's only a 20% jump for a massive spike potential from 20th to 5th. That's like big time. So he's either hot or he's cold. We got another Katy Perry situation here. So we kind of went and found a middleman here. Considering the field's a bit smaller, we went with a Wyndham Clark at minus 150 for a top 30 over at DraftKings. I think I made a note here. 65% of the time, Wyndham Clark is finishing inside the top 30. Minus 150 implies 60% of the time he gets it done. This field is small. It's 70 people. And if we take a look at the bottom of the board, we've got Chase Johnson, Nick Dunlap, Grayson Murray, JJ Spahn, Gary Woodland, Seamus Power, Nick Hardy, Lee Hodges, Charlie Hoffman. Like, these guys are all guys that Wyndham Clark should absolutely dominate. Ricky Fowler's just completely fallen off the wagon. So we'll see what he can get up to. But I mean, that's at least 10 people of the 70 that I'm not necessarily that concerned about. So call it 60 that we only have to deal with. And he's going to finish inside the top 30. He's got to beat half the field at minus 150. He's done that regularly in other markets. So we'll see what he can get up to. I love what's going on over there with Wyndham Clark at minus 150 to finish inside the top 30. His safety ranking is 11th in the model. So we like that. Long-term, Wyndham Clark, safety is 11th. So we'll see what can cook. And those are our placement bets. Let's dive over to our matchup model over here and take a look at what's going on. We've got some two matchups, which are very interesting to me. One of them being Scotty Scheffler over Rory McIlroy were the only 2 matchups that kicked out here. Was Scotty over Rory at minus 150 and Jason Day over Cameron Young at plus 125 over on DraftKings. So those were 2 that kicked out. So let's pull these 2 guys up here and take a look at how they compare to each other. So we've got Rory. Going to figure out Rory and Scotty to start off with. And what I like the most about Scotty is the fact that he's super consistent and just doing his thing. Even though Rory is pretty darn good with the top 5s and stuff, Scotty's he's got him pegged in pretty much every department, especially the top 20. Like, the consistency is there. Rory McIlroy finished inside the top 20 only 6 out of every 10 times. Scotty's doing it 9 out of every 10. So that's nice to see. Like, if one of them has a bad week, Scotty's typically his bad week is still inside the top 20. And then the upside is just incredible. Scotty's inside the top five 55% of the time, with Rory's only 31%. So we like to see that. The model has them ranked considerably apart. Scotty's number one across the board. Rory's fourth and eighth when it comes to safety and upside. So there's a big gap there. Because remember, we showed you guys the big gap in power rating, which is what the model uses over here. So the power rating is 4.4 versus 2.4 when it comes to that. And I think that includes the safety versus and top 20 rate, which is nice to see. So we're going to bet Scotty Scheffler over Rory McIlroy at minus 150, get ourselves a bit more exposure in that department. Also, Rory, if Rory, you know what? I don't think we're actually going to bet. We've got Rory for a freaking top 10. I don't think we can bet this bet. One of them we can't bet. One of them we can't. And I think I kind of like Rory for the minus 105. So we actually just going to leave that matchup alone. I digress. Apologies. I don't know why. I wasn't going to bet this anyway. And then on the show, I got carried away. Let's speak about the bet that we do want to make here. And it's Jason Day. The fact that we bet Cameron Young for first round leader is fine. Whatever. He'll implode after that. And that's if he even finishes inside, wins that first round. Jason Day versus Cameron Young is a very interesting matchup. If you take a look at what Jason Day's been up to the last little while, it's going to surprise you. I don't know. There's been a weird stigma about Jason Day the last little while. I'm here to show you that Jason Day is actually kind of an interesting case. He's fifth in the upside model. Yeah, fifth in the upside model, which is really bizarre to see. Cameron Young is 23rd. If you take a look at Jason Day's top 5 rate, it's 11% of his 18 starts. He's 28% of the time inside the top 10. Cameron Young has not had a top 5 finish in 22 starts since the last 12 months have rolled through. Not good. Cameron Young has got the best course history here because he finished 2nd and 20th. So he's only got 2, which include enough rounds of 8 to not be watered down by the calculation, my back end of the course history. But Jason Day, in his last 2 tournaments at Riv, has finished 9th and missed the cut. Back in 2020, he missed the cut. Last year, he finished 9th. Jason Day's last few starts finished 10th at the Century and 6th at Pebble. So we got some good stuff there. And I think what's really the most exciting thing about Jason Day is the fact that he's extremely good on POA. From 5 to 15 feet, he's the 2nd best putter in the field. And he's the 7th best POA putter in general in gaining strokes gained. Gaining strokes on POA greens. And then if you take a look at what J Day gets up to, his strokes gained out of the rough from 150 and out is the 27th best strokes gained on approach. So that's the best approach numbers he has out of all of his approach buckets, which include from the fairway and out of the rough. So that's good to see. He's very good out of the rough, so is Cameron Young. But the problem with Cameron Young is the putting. It's just the general lackadaisical stuff. Cameron Young obviously going to beat him in distance and off the tee stuff there, but J Day is pretty solid in that department too. And then the around the green play for J Day, 15th in the field. So he's chipping it well, going back to a course that the putting is going to show up on the POA greens. We'll see what he can get up to. I like that option. I like where they find each other in the model here. I know Cameron Young's picking up some steam the last little while, but at plus 125 over on DraftKings, I like Jason Day to take down Cameron Young. And that's the card, folks. That's going to be the card. In fact, that's the card. That's the card for today. Let's take a quick peek at who's costing us the most money across the board here. I think this is going to be a fun little part of the show. I'm interested to see some names. So far, Wyndham Clark, if you've hitched your wagon to him every week, you can go forever. He's won you $263 total dollars, trying to just win 100 each week. So that's what you call winning 3 times in the last 9 months. Nick Taylor won you $180. Lucas Glover, $179. Chris Kirk, $164. And Victor Hovland, $122. Those are the 5 guys that have won you over $100. I'm more interested in the guys that haven't. And there's 3 names on the board that even if you win your next outright on them to win $100, they're still going to have you in the hole. One of them being Scotty Scheffler, which is tantalizingly treacherous for us because we are betting Scotty Scheffler this week. But we don't bet him much. We like the plus 750. We like the chance that he's going to roll without having won the tournament the week before. He's going to ball strike this place to death. But the other two guys, Xander and Patrick Cantley, if you've been betting them regularly, you're in trouble because their next win isn't going to even get you back to break even. You're going to need another win. And one of them is not winning this week. That's just the facts. So that's the fun part there. And they both are short. I think Spencer got Cantley at 22-1, and Xander's sitting in the teens again, which is bizarre to even think about. Xander with a 15% top 5 rate when Scotty and Cantley and guys like Spieth all have better rates than him. Rory, all are floating around the top 5 a bit more. Xander just flits and flats. So those are two guys that you're going to be having to look out for. Another one is going to be Max Homa. If Max Homa finds himself not winning this tournament, he is going to be past break-even point for you, which is a problem. He hasn't been playing that great. He's going to be coming back to a golf course that he plays well at in the past. Second best course history in the field. I get it. But over the last 24 rounds, he's 11th in the field. And guess what? His worst strokes gained category is putting over the last 24 rounds. Max Homa's putting is typically the best part of his game. If you take a look at his overall putting, he's 9th in the field. Around the green baseline is 20th. His approach baseline is 15th. And he's off the tee baseline is 39th. So that is literally his best strength. His biggest strength out of his 4 categories is now currently his worst. I think he's going to be very popular at $9,800, especially with that course history. I think people are going to completely ignore that his putt is broken right now relative to Max Homa's standards. We'll have to see. He could easily bounce back. I'm willing to fade the guy. I don't see myself, even getting to him if I weren't betting Scotty Scheffler in the outright market. He's causing people some break-even considerations there. Let's look at top 5s. Assuming most of these guys are going to be showing up in the same department, minus Scotty Scheffler. But there's actually some new guys at the top here. And Sungjae Im has been playing very mediocre golf the last 12 months. In fact, so much so that he has not finished inside the top 5, along with his buddy Cameron Young. Those two would have cost you $435 and $433 over the last 12 months if you're trying to bet them top 5. So bear that in mind. Some other notable names: Tony Finau, Xander Schauffele, and Hideki Matsuyama. All would have cost you between $353 and $274. Max Homa as well. The upside just hasn't been there. And I think his price has been a lot shorter. And the thing with Xander is, despite finishing inside the top 5 15% of the time, still losing you $286 total. Your rate of return on those top 5 investments has been 42% loss. So crazy to see. Crazy to see. We'll have to see what cooks there. We're going to go to the top 10s here. Some of the worst losses. Hideki Matsuyama again, top 10. Do not bet Hideki Matsuyama for a top 10 finish. He is not doing it for you enough. He's only got 4% of the time is Hideki finishing inside the top 10. Yikes. I had a bet with my main man, Ian McNeil, over at Rotoballer, and he said, all right, you take Tom Kim, I'll take Hideki. I was like, all right, let's go. Didn't feel the greatest about it. Tom Kim was about missing the cut, made the cut on the number. Hideki was sitting inside the top 15. By the time the tournament was done, Hideki was sitting outside the top 20, and Tom Kim was sitting inside the top 20. That's what Hideki does. He just doesn't deliver the results. Had 2 chipping eagles, had multiple streaks. He's going bananas, but he's an issue. Tony Finau showing up again. Nick Hardy, one of the biggest names for top 10 losses, because Nick Hardy hasn't finished inside the top 10 since they won the tournament over at the Zurich, him and old Davis Riley. And then another interesting name that I wasn't entirely expecting on this list, Patrick Cantley will have returned you $20 aka 3% on your top 5 bets. But if you take him for top 10, it's a hemorrhaging situation. It would have lost you 379 or 27% loss of your investment there. So that's just crazy to think about. Despite Cantley finishing inside the top 10 at a 32% clip, the odds just haven't been good enough for Cantley, and his performance haven't been good enough to return you there. He's fine in the top 20 market. He's fine to go everywhere else, but that's the situation. He's just not showing up on time for top 10s. And speaking of not showing up on time is Darbo. What are you doing showing up 45 minutes into the show, Darbo? We've already spoken about everything. I'm just kidding. Thanks for showing up, my friend. Always good to see you in the chat. Really appreciate your support. If you don't go and watch Sweet Spot DFS, which happens roughly in half an hour's time after my show ends, around 8:30 Eastern, Darbo? I think that's when you start yours. It's a great show. I love it. It's very interesting from a DFS perspective. Go check it out. Sweet Spot DFS. Let's speak about some other names in here. Siwoo Kim. I know he's playing some good golf right now, but his top 10 rate and his top 20 rate have been very, very bad. Very, very bad, especially for the returns he's had in that department. Sungjae Im showing up again. And then Taylor Montgomery. People love Taylor Montgomery. I know Darbo doesn't. I know a few people are going to be betting this guy outright. Taylor Montgomery has not had a top 5 finish in the last 25 starts or so, or call it the last 12 months. Very, very disappointing stuff. 7 p.m. sharp, Central Time, so 8 Eastern. Yes, and that's the thing. So anyway, getting back to the top 5 here for Taylor Montgomery, non-existent. 4% of the time, top 10. The same with JJ Spahn, Seamus Power, Luke List. Those aren't guys that are necessarily that bet on anyway, so it's interesting to see. Matthew Fitzpatrick showing up here in the top 10 market. This guy's only had a top 10, 14% of his starts in the last 12 months. Fitzy. Yikes. What are we doing, Fitz? Got to get it together. Outside of his win, he would have lost you money in every other market. Not good, Bob. That's interesting to see. Let's filter on the top 20s, which are very interesting names as well. If you filter on the top 20s, yeah, obviously Tiger Woods not going to, that just doesn't make a difference. We're just going to ignore those two guys. JJ Spahn and Nick Hardy again showing up. So Nick Hardy hasn't necessarily done his thing. JJ Spahn, horrible losses. Tony Finau showing up again. Gary Woodland, Taylor Montgomery, Alex Smalley, Siwoo Kim. All these guys are not good top 20 bets just over the last 12 months whatsoever. Let's flip it around because I saw Russell Henley's name at the top of the board here, which is very interesting to see. If you take a look at the rate of return on what you require. So rate of return is what you take when you take your investment and you divide it by what is returned. That's what you invest divided by what you get back is your rate of return. Russell Henley, 54% of that money comes back to you all the time for top 20 market. He's phenomenal in that. If you were betting to win $100 per tournament, by the end of the last 12 months, you would have won $741 betting Russell Henley top 20s. He finishes inside the top 20 60% of the time. Crazy. Crazy, crazy. He finished inside the top 10 only 25% of the time. So not good. His upside is very capped, but his top 20 rate is phenomenally good. So that's what's going on with Russell Henley. And I was looking at betting him for a top 20, but he's only had one top 20 here at Riviera in the last 5 starts, and his game seems to have gone by the wayside. Russell Henley's a very good iron player, and over the last little while, he's only 31st in the field on approach. He's been scrambling his face off because his irons have been bad. And if you take a look at what Henley's approach, like he's 23rd in the field typically. He's very good out the rough from inside of 150. All good things for Henley, but right now not playing the best golf. Grayson Murray, very limited sample size, whatever. Screw that guy. Got some other names here. Emilio Grillo. This dude has been pumping out top 20s for you at a 36% rate of return to win you $415 back if you kind of hitch your wagon to Grillo. Cameron Davis, Also, very interesting name that I did not expect to see here. He's returning a 38% clip on your investment and would have won you close to $1,000 if you bet him to win 100 every week to finish inside the top 20. The same goes for his top 10 rate. But lately, he's been playing like shit. 59th in the field in the last 24 rounds. So he had that hot stretch, I think, when his odds were pretty crappy. Because if you take a look at Cam Davis's top 20 rate, it's only 40%. Griot's only 33%. So these are guys that kind of drift away on the odds market and then all of a sudden show back up again and pop in there. So if you can catch those guys right, they're typically doing some stuff for you. Adam Scott, like we mentioned with the top 20s, solid option, but why are you going to be betting top 20 when you can be betting a top 10, which he does at basically the same rate? 6% difference between those two finishing positions. So interesting stuff. I don't know if you guys enjoyed this part of the show. It's just a 10-minute barrage of percentages, but I think it's important because there's guys like Cantley, there's guys like Xander that you think, yeah, sure, I'll just bet this guy T5 every week, ultimately losing you money in the long run. Very, very peculiar stuff. So we'll see what cooks, but that's going to be it from me. Nice little short show. Go check out the Rotoballer PGA show, which me and Spence did last night over on the Rotoballer channel on YouTube. Use code NEW for 30% off anything premium over there at Rotoballer PGA. We want you on the show. We want you on the show. We want you on the team. That's what we're doing. We're having a good year. Tomorrow, I'll have also an episode with Pat Mayo that I did a while back. That'll be airing tomorrow since he's on holiday now. There's a part in that show that I completely short circuit for about 20 seconds. The problem with his show is that if they don't hit the right settings on the Zoom or whatever, I was just staring at myself into the darkness for a while, and I just completely spaced out and lost track of what I was doing. And you'll see it's a very bad and embarrassing look. But I think it was a good show outside of that, like 30 seconds that I died on camera, just on my own. I couldn't even see his face. Like when you're speaking to someone, you have to see their face. Like I'm speaking to myself right now. That's fine. I'm speaking to you guys. But when you're speaking to another guest and you can't see their face, it's just like turns it into a phone call and it doesn't make any sense. So my brain couldn't handle that and it just stopped working. So enjoy that part of the show tomorrow. That's going to be great. I dropped my PGA Stat Buffet. That's out there. It's got all these screenshots of every single one of these return on investments or the dollars earned back. It's got the best top 10 rates for guys that are over, like in the field. And it's got the best top 20 rates for guys that are under $8,000. It's got the best top 40 rates for guys under $7,000. So it can really help you see your DFS lineups there. In that article, I kind of filtered on guys that are the cheapest, who are the cheapest options per dollar that they've earned you in DFS points so far for their current price tag. Obviously, these two guys down here, whatever. But like Kevin Yu, over the last little while at $6,300 has returned, it's only $101 per a point that he's earned you so far. The 62 of them there. If you go all the way down here, like Rory is averaging only 80 points at $140 per point. So I know it's weird numbers over there, but you can see I'm just stacking guys that are good options in that department, like Victor, little cheaper options, Ludwig, all guys like that. I mean, some of them have some wins there that really spike their points, but hey, they've got upside. So that's going to be shown in this article every single week. We've got lots to go off of there. Other things in that article are just going to be their recent form. I've just filtered that stuff by top 20s for each little column. You can see who's hitting their irons well, who's chipping well, who's putting well, who's driving well, who's just playing good golf in general. It's all in there. And guess what? I'll give you a little free tip. In the article, I have my fortune cookie filter where I take every single significant stat for the week, off the tee, recent form, course history, on approach play, around the greens, putting, bogey avoidance, medium course scoring. If you filter above average for every single one of those columns, only one golfer this week, it's the first time that's ever happened, one golfer this week made the cut. And I'm not going to tell you who it is. I'll tell you who it is. Scotty Scheffler. He was the guy that made the fortune cookie filter He was the only person above average in all those departments because Scotty on POA isn't too shabby. He's above average, especially from 5 to 15 feet. So that's fun stuff. Fun stuff. Awesome, friends, family, fans. Thank you for tuning in. Let's have a great week. Today, me and my wife jumped on a phone call quickly to chat with somebody, like just a normal routine medical call or whatever. But the person on the other side of the phone call was the most friendly, the most passionate, the most considerate. She came home and was just bitching at me about a bad day. She's a teacher. We got on that phone call and I could just see the smile across her face just spreading like wildfire. I had to do hardly any of the lifting. This lady on the other side on a medical phone call was amazing. So just little last 5 minutes stuff here. Like, go and be that person in your life. I know some of us aren't like as outgoing as we are, like me, like the person on the phone call. But you can also do awesome stuff to other people to make their life better in your own way. Just a smile, whatever. Just go and make a freaking difference. Be that person on the outside of the call. Be the person that just changes somebody who could have a really bad day. Go change that person's day a little bit. We need more of this in the world. It's just the time to be good. It's the time to be grateful. It's the time to be happy. Just go and change the world. Be the change in the world you want to see. Mahatma Gandhi. Boom. Off the soapbox. I will be back on Sunday night for the research stream. We ain't messing around anymore. So that'll be me. 9 o'clock Central. I think it's 10 Eastern. I typically do that. So 10 Eastern, research stream. And then we'll have the full complement of shows the next week going into the Mexico Open. So good luck this week, friends. Good freaking luck. Happy Valentine's Day tomorrow. And we'll see you next